visiting with Ray Shjerven. I've known Ray for over 20 years. I served with Ray's spouse, Rebecca Shjerven, who is now the bishop's associate. 20 years ago, we were co-pastors at Bethlehem Lutheran in Tacoma. And so I've known Ray for a long time. I've watched and heard, listened to his different callings in life and different vocations. And I thought that since I wanted to do a stewardship video about the stewardship of work and service, that Ray would be a great person to talk to. And so Ray, welcome to Messiah.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here in my office and talking. So to start off, share a bit with us about the different occupations that you've had throughout your life.
Okay, so I worked in a gas station.
Nice.
And I worked in a firehouse when I was still in high school. And I was a firefighter for 38 years. And the other occupations that I've had have been husband, father, and now most recently grandfather. I have done volunteer work for my church, for different organizations, for the Democratic Party, and presently right now I'm the state coordinator for Lutheran Disaster Response.
Tell us what's your home congregation?
St. Mark's Lutheran Church by the Narrows in Tacoma, Washington.
And then coordinator for the synod?
For the state, the
for
three
the
synods,
state.
Northwest
Okay.
Washington, Southwestern Washington, and Northwest Intermountain.
And so just briefly mention, what do you do in that role?
Okay, so in that role is that if there's a disaster, the LDR out of Chicago, someone would need to fill out for a grant to help with whatever disaster is going on. The most recent disaster was Medical Lake and the Gray Fire outside of Spokane. We got them a $10,000 solidarity grant. There's more money available if needed, but that was for helping the people of Medical Lake who lost everything to have something until insurance kicks in, FEMA steps in, all of those different places. Their house gets rebuilt. So bought high school kids clothing, bought high school kids school supplies, replaced things that they needed for school. I mean, football players needed cleats. Their cleats are at home or they burned up. They got new cleats. So that there also was a feeding program that existed, and they expanded it because, people wanted to be in their community but couldn't cook meals, so they could come to St. John's Lutheran in Medical Lake and have a meal there.
So gas station attendant, firefighter, LDR, working, volunteering at St. Mark's. I know something about you for these last 20 plus years. These are not just occupations for you. There is some sense of calling.
Oh, it's a vocation, and it's been a vocation. I was not called to be a gas station attendant. I needed a job.
Okay, so maybe that wasn't a vocation.
Yeah, but that being a firefighter, I was a firefighter for 38 years. That was a calling. That was a vocation. I felt I needed to be there. You'll meet lots of firefighters where it's not a calling. It is, I'm going to do my work, collect my paycheck, and I'm going to not care about anything until I come to work again. I thought about my job all the time. It was a calling.
If I were to say to you, and I'm going to say it because I believe it, that you have a gifted life.
Oh, certainly.
Say some things about that.
Well, holy cow. My life has just been great. I've got 3 great kids. I got a great wife. I have a community of people that I worship with. I work on behalf, I think, of the people who have needs that aren't being taken care of by the government through my work with the Democratic Party. I sit on the state Central Committee and really work for people who work for a living, for those people who can't work for a living, those people, and try to get other people maybe to pay more in taxes so they can help those who need more.
What couple things that are gifts that you have? What are some gifts that you
Well, the gift is that I have the ability to speak, and I can speak extemporaneously, and I can speak in front of a crowd, and that doesn't seem to bother me. That is an asset that I got to use both as a firefighter in LDR, making presentations to congregations about LDR, and my work in the Democratic Party. I have the ability to speak and make sense of what I'm saying, and I think people appreciate that about me. That's one of my gifts. I think my other gift is courage. I not just being a firefighter, because that takes courage, but about 4 weeks ago, the city of Gig Harbor they were going to adopt a resolution that would allow the pride flag to be flown over City Hall. And I tell you, I showed up there and there were about 4 Proud Boys who were taking pictures of the signage sheet. And I know they scared a lot of people off from testifying. I wasn't scared. I knew that I might meet them in the parking lot afterwards. Fortunately, they weren't there, but I spoke my piece that the LGBT flag, Q plus flag, needs to be flown over our city. It's a beacon for those kids who've been turned away by their community, by their family, by their church.
So courage for you, whether it's a firefighter or speaking out for the queer community, courage is what?
Well, it's a gift.
Okay.
It's a gift.
Because me in my life, I would run away from fire.
Like a lot of people do.
Or, in my life, speaking on behalf of the queer community is something where I feel I've been pushing myself. But courage fundamentally for you is the ability, what is it?
I think to do things that would make other people uncomfortable.
Okay. Bottom line.
Bottom line.
Bottom line.
And I know lots of LGBTQ plus advocates that were present that just didn't have the courage to speak, nor did they probably have the skills. So I got to do it on their behalf.
Say a little more about LDR and what's drawn you to share those gifts of speaking and courage into that realm?
Well, I don't think I need as much courage as I did being a firefighter or speaking on behalf of any marginalized community. So I don't think there's a lot of courage. It's just the right thing to do. There's no harm that's going to come to me.
Okay.
I'm not going to have 4 Proud Boys come to my house and beat me up because I got somebody a grant to help people who are involved in a disaster. I just don't see that as happening.
The gift of speaking or organizing, motivating, how do you speak to congregations in your work for LDR?
Well, if I get invited to a congregation, or the last place I was with the Northwest Washington Synod's Education Day, I went. I just gave them a presentation about LDR. This is what LDR does. This is how it's made up. Things have changed in LDR over the years, but if you write a check for disaster release in Ottumwa, Iowa, it's going to go to Ottumwa, Iowa. And I just make those guarantees on behalf. I can also speak, and I've spoken to groups, and it wasn't just congregations, but it was opened up. It was about emergency preparedness in the home, and then what your church can do to be an advocate during a disaster, how we can turn our buildings into climate refuge hubs for extreme heat, for extreme cold, for smoke, to get people who are affected by climate change, which is a disaster, but turning churches into resiliency hubs. And that also is, it's also evangelism.
Say more about that.
Well, so I don't know what happens at Messiah, but I can speak about my church. My church hosts a Boy Scout group, and it hosts, and I'm talking external, not internal to the church. It has an AA meeting. There are groups. I think the Dahlia Society meets there. If you use your church internally only for the members, it's not a church. It's not reaching out. It is a club. And there are plenty of clubs out there. The Elks are out there, the Sons of Norway. You can join those clubs. If you want your church to be a club, you're not going to be a church for very long. So you have to reach out. So using your building, and so from my LDR pitch is like, hey, if you got a commercial kitchen and you've got classrooms, you guys could probably host a FEMA team from Iowa, and your parishioners can feed them. And they'll get up in the morning and they'll go to work, and they'll come back at night and you feed them, and hopefully you have a shower, they can shower, and then they can rest and do the next thing. That's what happened. I never went on a FEMA deployment, but I had lots of friends who did, and they ended up in churches that opened their doors, and guys slept on pews, they slept on the floor, but they had a place to rest.
It sounds almost like, chaperoning a youth event.
Exactly, a lot like chaperoning a youth event.
We talked a little earlier before we started recording this. We talked about your sense of meaning or purpose in your occupations, in your callings, from working in the gas station to being a firefighter to doing LDR work or work for the Democratic Party, that throughout all of this, you've had some sense of meaning and purpose. And we were laughing because I said, there's a sense of meaning and purpose taking someone out of a burning building. With LDR, there's also a sense of meaning and purpose doing paperwork.
Exactly.
So say about how that sense of meaning and purpose continues throughout all that stuff, even being grandpa.
Okay, so I hope I'm going to answer this question appropriately, and if I meander, please cut, edit, or just understand it's the musings of an old man. But so I have seen families at their worst. Sadder, uncomfortable, death, destruction, loss. I've seen it. So when I read about or I get a notice from the Washington State Department of Emergency Management that an atmospheric river is going to cross the state, and it's going to hit the Makah tribe, and it's going to hit parts of Port Angeles and into Sequim, and then it's going to go across, and it's going to take out Skagit and Whatcom County, and the towns of Everson and Sumas are under 4 feet of water. I can empathize with those people. I've seen what it takes. So I can do my part. So 3 years ago in Sumas, LDR provided, after the floodwaters had receded, LDR and the Episcopal Church together, we gave oil radiator heaters, fans, and extension cords, so people could start drying out their homes. So I know that I was doing a little bit of good for people who really have lost everything. And now I am just watching the long-term recovery of what's going on to really harden Sumas and Everson and Whatcom County. So if this happens again, they have more resources available to them to protect their homes. I
didn't put this question down on the sheet, but I wanted to just kind of close with it because it just occurred to me as you were talking that you've had all these different occupations, different callings, and you have a sense of being there for the neighbor in the midst of all of them. If you were to sit down and have coffee with someone who's thinking about retiring from their sort of major career they've had in their life, and we're making a transition into where they're going, I got another 20, 30 years where I can really be productive and helpful, what would you say to them to help them get started on that transition into what we call retirement and living for one's neighbor?
Okay, and living for one's neighbor. Now, there's plenty of people who retire and just buy an RV and head to Arizona for the winter, and I don't blame them. But I would just say, what are you passionate about, and what do you think is important? And if someone says, I think kids are really important, there are places you could go to. Now, I don't have those skills to tutor a kid in math or English or science or anything, but I know people who do, and they go places 2 days a week. I have a friend who's a retired judge, and he helps the homeless with legal issues because they're civil, they're not criminal, and they need help. in order to kind of get out of the civil situation they're in. So I think anyone who's planning, first of all, is you just don't retire. If you retire and don't have a plan, I guarantee you'll die in 5 years. If you have a plan in place, and if you're a Christian and you're told to serve your neighbor, then serve your neighbor and make a plan ahead of time. And try different things. Lots of people have tried different things and they didn't like it. Try something else. Even if it's becoming a merit badge counselor for a Boy Scout troop on something that you're interested in.
So passion, planning, be flexible,
Try different things, and something will hit you. Something will hit you. I worked at a food pantry. I loved it. It was so much fun. I worked with other people, and I worked at Trinity Lutheran Church in Parkland, and they've got one of the largest feeding ministries in that part of the county, and it was awesome to help these people get nutritious foods, and some of it came right out of the garden that was outside. So,
last question. Here you go.
Okay.
Here you go, Ray. 10 years from now.
10 years from now.
What are you going to be doing?
Well, 10 years from now, I hope I'll have more than one grandchild. I'll probably be going to little mini soccer games or little t-ball games, I hope, for both boys and girls. But at 10 years from now, I think I'm probably still going to be doing this unless my wife's call and vocation pulls me away from this state. And that could happen.
We will see where the Reverend Rebecca Shjerven ends up 10 years from now, which probably will influence you.
It will influence me.
Best of luck and prayers around, more grandchildren.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you for talking to us
today. You are more than welcome. And hey, Messiah, invite me here. I can talk about all sorts of things about disasters and disaster response and how to harden your building and how to harden your home and how to become a resilient community in this climate crisis that we're in.
In the spring, Ray Shjerven will be at Messiah and we will hear about how to respond.
And it will be so much fun.
As you can tell, Ray is not lacking with energy. Thank you, Ray.
All right, you're welcome.